Welcome to Ecologic for the month of February. Mardi Gras behind us. Boy Scouts led the flag detail, led all the parades, say nearly all of them, 6 of the parades, Rio and the 5 Southwest Louisiana Mardi Gras Association parades. It's an honor to do that. We had inclement weather Monday night for the Queen's Parade. About 37 degrees and pouring down rain, so it made for a very quick walk. Normally it takes 3 to 3.5 hours to do that parade, and but Monday night in the rain it was an hour and 40 minutes, actually about 5 miles. So great opportunity to serve the community and all the guests from all over the country that come to visit Lafayette during the Mardi Gras event. Very well run. The police do a great job of keeping order. Not that there seems to be much of an opportunity for disorder, but with a strong police presence that just, and a very courteous police presence that just limits the opportunities for things to go awry. Mostly a family event, and a lot of children enjoying it. So thanks to all those people who set up those parades, who drive the trucks, who pay the bills, so to speak. All the beads and everything that's thrown costs somebody something. And people are doing that to serve the community and serve those visitors who want to have a good time and get a few beads to take back to Texas or to Minnesota, New York, or wherever. So great Mardi Gras in Lafayette, wonderful. For the most part, real good weather except Monday night. So tonight we're talking about eco projects. When a boy's in the Boy Scouts, once he reaches the rank of life, to be able to advance to the highest rank in Scouting Eagle, he has to do 21 merit badges. He has to serve in leadership positions in the troop. Then he has to do an Eagle Project. An Eagle Project is something that serves the community, the state, the environment, the world. It can't be serving for private profit and so forth. So we have Stuart McFadden, who at the urging and request of Festival of Acadien de Creole, they use the Gerard Park, and they wanted to put something a little back, make the park better. So Stuart took it upon himself to work with other groups, and so Stuart, share with us how you put this project together, what it was, and when did you do it, and from what sectors did you receive help in doing this project in Gerard Park?
Okay. Well, at the beginning, Mr. Scheffler brought me to the project, asked me what I needed to do, what I would like for an Eagle project, because I just received, at this time, I had the rank of life, and one of the lingering parts of getting Eagle is the project. So Mr. Scheffler gave me some ideas of some things that may have interest to me, and I saw this as a very good way to give back to the community. I like Gerard Park. It's a great place, and I like Festival Acadien. And so meeting with Mr. Scheffler, we discussed who I may start getting in contact with, and probably one of the first main people who helped me was Miss Heather Finley. She's part of Trees of Acadiana, and she kind of showed me what I needed to do to get this project going. So after emailing back and forth with her, discussing what we want to do, the plan was to plant trees of some fruit-bearing trees in Gerard Park. So with her both of us talking together, we established what we want, how many and what we wanted to plant. So we decided to plant six trees in 5 plots around Girard Park, which consisted of some fig trees, citrus, persimmons,
Japan plum,
and yeah, Japanese loquat plum,
pecan
and
also.
pecans. Yeah, we did plant pecans around the perimeter of Girard Park. So I did one of the main guys I needed to get into contact to was Greg Gotro, the Parks and Recreation guy at Girard Park, to have me grant me permission to plant these trees. So
And where, huh? I mean, you were working out the details of where they should be
Right,
planted and how they should be
how they should be
set up
kept,
so
yeah.
that the mowers could get around them and.
Right.
And then where they didn't interfere with the events in the park, right?
Right. I met with him and a streets Brian Smith for Lafayette government streets director, and we met at the park, and we kind of, one of the main issues was how we stopped the mowers in the park from getting too close to the trees and harming the trees. So originally we were supposed to have mulch all around the 5 trees in each plot, and after talking, we decided that we would not have enough mulch to do this for all 5 plots, and that we would be able to have protection of the trees from the mowers without having to put mulch everywhere if we just space the trees out. So I met with them at the park, and we walked around, and we decided what places would be the best to put these trees in. After that,
But you might, so instead of putting them fairly close together where you mulch an entire bed, you decided to separate them and mulch each tree individually.
correct, right.
And you have a real weed problem when you make a big bed and the mowers can't get to it and nobody goes out there and weeds, so.
Right, in the mulch,
Yeah.
yes. So we thought it'd be a lot easier to just space the trees out more so mowers would be able to get in between them and still have like an area of protection for the trees.
So you planted roughly 40 trees, I guess, and then you had, where'd the trees come from? Who paid for them?
Well, all of this was donated from Festival Acadian to kind of give back to Girard Park for that is the festival grounds for Festival Acadian. So most of the trees were gotten from New Orleans area there, and the pecan trees were also, they weren't from New Orleans.
They're from Opelousas.
Opelousas, yes. And the day of, we got up, we got all the trees there, and a few days before, I also went out and painted a few spots, so it'd be very easy for everyone to know where the trees would be planted, so that helped a lot too.
Was this in line with Arbor Day? What was the date that you did the planting?
It was on Arbor Day, the 17th of January, yeah, Saturday.
Okay, and then how many volunteers did you have?
Roughly over 40, 50 volunteers. A lot of people, a lot more than I expected, which is really great. It definitely helped with the project.
Yeah, I counted 57 at one time, and they are fellow scouts, and they're from Trees Acadiana, just people from the community,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I think I saw people just going to the park and ended up helping out, just shoveling some dirt around the trees.
Okay, share with us how it actually went and how y'all dealt with, you had more mulch than you needed, how you dealt with that.
Okay, well, the day of, we,
And of course, it was good weather.
right, it was great. It was awesome outside. Let's see, so we got there, we went around and.
This is a Saturday,
Yeah.
like 9 in the morning?
Let's see, I'm pretty sure I was there, yeah, it started at 9, so I was there at 8, and putting trees everywhere. So we went around in trucks and we dropped the trees on their specific locations. And at 9, people started showing up. We had a little sign-up table with some breakfast goodies. And we had 3 specific areas which Brian Smith dumped his streets guys kind of dumped mulch for us, for the trees.
And this is City of Lafayette
City
mulch?
of Lafayette mulch, yes. Compost. So the same time I talked with Greg Gocho, I talked to him and we found places to put the mulch very close to the day of the project, so we'd be able to use that mulch for the trees. So once the trees were in their spots, we kind of set out into groups and basically divided and conquered the area, digging holes and then placing the little sapling trees into the mulch, into the holes that we dug, and then covering it up with some mulch around the trees. Probably
These
like,
were all potted trees, weren't they?
Right, correct,
They were
all
potted trees, they
potted.
weren't just seedlings. They were-
right, probably 4 feet, 3-4
Yeah,
feet
right.
average height. Some of them, the persimmons were the biggest ones, weren't they? They were.
Japan plum.
The Japanese plums were probably 6 feet. They were really big. So
So it's been a month since they've been planted. How do they look now?
they look great. I've driven past them multiple times. It's nice to look at them and say, oh, I planted those right there. They look great. I think everybody enjoys them. I haven't seen a lot of fruit on them, so I'm guessing the fruit that's starting to grow, people have taken upon themselves to pick it. And
It's gonna be a while yet. I think, it takes, the citrus probably a couple of years. The figs probably, they grow real fast, so.
yeah, the
Um,
fig trees.
then you have, Japan plums probably will produce fruit this year because they were rather large.
Right. Yeah, but nice shade for the big trees, and it makes the park look better. With the extra mulch, we just went around and put it around other trees, and it made it look really, really nice. Just trees.
Yeah, people
By the
look at
mulch.
it and figure all the trees with mulch were the trees we planted, so it makes
Yeah.
it look like a much bigger project. But it was a great thing to do with the excess mulch, because all the trees can need it and use it, so. So that's, the Eagle project is not necessarily done by this Eagle Scout, Life Scout, who puts it together. It's his role to lead it, to make it happen, to deal with obstacles, deal with adversity. And invariably, there are changes that are made. Were there any major changes to your project?
Well, besides deciding not to mulch the entire areas of the trees, we did have a few different places originally we had some places that we wanted to put the plots, and then after talking to Greg Gocho, he had other plans for those areas, so it wasn't major, but we just moved some of the plots. But those two things were basically main differences.
So let's kind of, the groups that helped you, the members of Troop 4 or 5 were a bunch of the volunteers, but then share with the audience what other groups assisted and helped to make this happen.
Well, Trees Acadiana did a big, helped us a lot, lots of volunteers.
And they actually acquired all the
Right.
trees and got them to
They-
the park, right?
Yes, they,
Even and Festival of Cardiac, it
de-
was the
paid
initial
for
idea,
right,
and they paid for it.
right, they paid for it, Trees Acadiana provided the trees and, got them there, and they helped tremendously with volunteers, and then our Boy Scout troop,
And the city itself, right?
right, yeah.
The city parks and because they were, I think, elated and very excited to see this happen because it improves the park, the beauty of the park. And I think the idea was during Festival of Cardiac, we have visitors from all over the country, and to see actually grapefruit hanging out there and satsumas and oranges that are, available to the public, and hopefully there won't be any abuses there. But they said that festival occurs, I guess, in mid-October, when all those fruit just getting ripe. Persimmons, of course, figs are past, but pecans certainly are ripe. And so they'll pay dividends a long time to come. You on the air? Come on. You on the air? Can we help you?
Yes, Harold, I tuned in late, and, I'm sorry, trying to get mute, hold, yeah, okay. I just tuned in late, I don't know what map shows. Could you explain where that is?
The map is the Next Eagle project. The map will be talking about the milepost on the Shafly Basin Wilderness Bike Trail. We'll be talking about that in a minute.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, the map will move that, move on that, but the Eagle Project is something that serves the community, and something that is part of the Eagle Board of Review, and the board, when they interview a young man to reach the rank of Eagle, certainly look at all the requirements, but one of the biggest things is the Eagle Project and what he did, and what leadership abilities came to the forefront to make this project happen. So what are your thoughts about it? Are you happy with the way the outcome of the project? You feel good about it?
Definitely. It's great. It's great to walk by, and I was in the park the other day with my friends, and I told them I planted those right there, and it was really great to think about that and just giving back to the community. I'm glad I did this project. The mayor came. I had lots of help. It was great. I talked to him. He thanked me.
And the news media came also, I guess.
Correct. Yes. And it was overall. It was a great
the
project.
newspaper covered it, didn't he? Yes.
Yes,
the
sir,
newspaper
yes.
did cover it. Both, I think, the Advocate and they are advertising.
Yeah, the advertiser too.
Right. Super. So congratulations, great job, Stuart.
Thank you.
Next project we wanted to talk about is the Shafly Basin Wilderness Bike Trail. The map behind us kind of depicts it. It starts out, all the colored area is pretty much a Shafly Basin, and the red line is the bike trail, starting at Henderson, and it's on the top of the West Guide Levee, and it goes, it's a gravel strip. It's maintained, the top is maintained by the Corps of Engineers because twice a week they have to do an inspection of the levee, and that's a drive-by inspection. So, and they're very anxious, the levee board is very anxious to keep cars off the top and only allow bicycles and hikers to go on the top. And it's a beautiful view from up there. And it goes from about 31 feet at Henderson, right below I-10. It starts at the Henderson Bayou Army boat landing, and it goes 55 miles. The Eagle Project was to actually put mileposts along the way, each mile just like our highways. And that's kind of important because the Shafly Basin program set out a map, as you see behind us, But on the reverse side of the map, they have mileposts that tells you what you see as you go along. It starts out at 0, Henderson Bayou Army Boat Landing. Mile 4 is the Butte LaRose Bridge, where you can go to Butte LaRose, and there's a store and so forth there. And mile 10 is the Catahoula Boat Landing, both on the community of Catahoula and in the basin. And then mile 15 is the Bayou Alexander Highway, which goes to the community of Coda Homes, the Bayou Manuel Boat Landing, and so on. But when you're riding it, there's nothing to indicate where you are, because this is a road with no stop signs, not anything to inhibit a biker. It's teeming with wildlife, and especially on a bike, you ride up on Turkey and you see deer and stuff that you'd never see in a car. So the project for Scout Blake Saunier was to put the actual mileposts, and there are 56 of them, starting at 0 at the boat landing, and then 1, 2, 3, and so forth, all the way to mile 55, which is way down in St. Mary Parish. So the Chaffelai Basin Program in the State's Department of Natural Resources actually put together the map and the mileposts, and we desperately needed to put miles in the ground. And so his project was to get that done. And first required him going to the parish government of St. Martin, Iberia, and St. Mary, with a request for their help. Scout Blake Saunier actually went before the councils, made an appeal. St. Martin Parish had 24 miles on the trail. Iberia had 11 miles, and St. Mary had 20. So that made up the 55, and all 3 parishes agreed to provide the posts and the signs, and 0 through 55, actually 56 signs. And so the project came once the parishes agreed to purchase the signs. It had to all be brought together, and the Scout had to set up, first of all, the placement and driving of the post. That was done on one day, and surprisingly it went very fast. 2 teams, 1 truck had the post and the very precise GPS unit, not the type that you use for cars, but the type you use for hiking. That's accurate to 1/100th of a mile. So that gave us within 50 feet of where each mile was. And so the first team went and actually measured the miles, and we hit the mile point, we placed the post on the ground, and the next team came behind and with a little pile driver would drive the piling into the levee and so forth all the way down. And it actually took 2 hours and 35 minutes to do that. It went surprisingly fast. And we were putting 6-foot posts in the ground 2 feet. And so a couple of weeks later, when the signs came in, we divided into 3 teams. All this being led by the Scout. And Team A was St. Martin Parish with 24 signs. Team B was Iberia Parish with 11 signs. And Team C was St. Mary Parish with 20. And to keep everything straight, as the posts were placed in the levee, they were actually numbered. And so with the number sign in your hand, you could go to the post and make sure the number in your hand was the same as on the post. Because had we messed up, we'd have been doing the whole thing over again. So the project went great. It was done really in 2 days, not counting the effort to get the parishes on board and get them to fund and agree to pay for it. the St. Mary Levee Board, and there are two levee boards involved, were very excited about this project, and they set up 11 or 12 gates, and these gates exclude automobiles and trucks, but they have an opening for bikes and hikers, and it's their way of saying cars stay off, and bikes can run in relative safety and not worry about cars running over you, especially in St. Mary Parish. The last 20 miles of it. Of course, the same is true for the top port too, but gates have not been put in place on the Chaffelay Levee Board portion. They may do that later. So this was serving the community. Wilderness biking is becoming more and more popular. It does mean riding on the gravel, and people from Lafayette go all the way to northwest Colorado to be able to ride 30 or 40 miles of gravel road. And we have this levee, which is gravel, and there's a beautiful scenic view from it, but there's not a stop sign. There's no roads crossing, and so in relative safety, someone can go and make that trip. Your speed on gravel is slowed down to about 7, 8 miles an hour. On hard pavement, you're probably going 3 or 4 miles an hour faster. But this is not something you want to rush anyway. The beauty of the basin is there, and to stop every now and then and enjoy the birds flying over, or listening to the sounds of the wilderness, or observing a deer or a turkey or something like that is worth the trip. It's a magnificent way to enjoy the basin. And there are plans to enhance the trail. There are wilderness campsites along the trail. As you look at the map up there, everything that is colored purple, yellow, orange is all state land, and a lot of that, the levee goes right through it. So all those state lands you're allowed to camp, and a lot of spots along the levee where you can set up a tent and enjoy the sounds of the wilderness. So we're excited that the Scouts are taking part in these projects. This complements the commitment that the Evangeline Area Council Boy Scouts has to the Chaffelay Basin. It's a 100-year commitment to clean up, to plant trees, to enhance the basin. We got 2 5-gallon buckets of acorns last year and planted on each side of this bike trail in the woods, mostly live oaks. Hopefully they'll be visible growing soon. The idea was to take live oaks from very healthy oaks, the acorns from them, and hike through the woods between the mowed area of the levee and the water. And you have both sides, you have about a 100-foot wooded corridor, and that's a shelter for wildlife. And the acorns were distributed through there, and meaning that as every 50 feet or so, you take your shoe and brush the leaves back, and drop 3 acorns and step on them, and then put the leaves back over them. And that's the way the arborists recommend planting these acorns. So we hope these will come into full-grown trees, and I don't know how many thousand acorns we planted, but if we have a 1% success rate, we'll have an awful lot of oak trees growing in the basin. And that's important because there are a lot of trees in the basin, but not all of them provide food for squirrels and deer and wood ducks and all that. The oak tree does. So we have other scouts working on Eagle projects. One of the projects coming up is to put on the abandoned platforms in Lake Dotree and Lake Falls Point a glow-in-the-dark sign. There's a company that makes this glow-in-the-dark paint, and they sending us panels that we will place as warning to people who are navigating these waters at night, and these black creosoted platforms don't show up too good and could be real dangerous if someone collided with them at night. So that's one of the Eagle projects. And Stuart, you might mention others that you've worked on in the past. Have some of them come to mind that have been bell ringers for you?
Well, I participated in Jake Para's EcoScout project, which we planted trees around the UL campus. I'm pretty sure they were some live oak or water oak, some sort of oak. And I don't know how many we planted, but whenever I go by there, I see exactly where they are.
And then you see the oak trees that are at Louisiana Avenue at the new, at the mall there, and both north and south of Interstate 10, those were all Eagle projects. Those trees are getting rid of, that's 4 or 5 years ago, right?
Right.
They're getting to be much larger trees, and all over town you see the trees that are coming up that scouts have planted. One of the projects was the inventory of the trees in Gerard Park, which was done in 1985, and then 17 years later it was done again. And it was that knowledge that helped the park improve a lot. They realized in '85 that the pond was getting larger and larger, and that the coulee was eroding, and so because of that Eagle project, then the coulee was covered over, which gave a lot more useful area and stopped the erosion, and then the pond was stabilized where it would quit growing. It had doubled in size in about 7 or 8 years. And all those issues were pointed out by the Eagle project, as well as the fact that they had a bunch of dangerous trees in the park, water oaks that had reached their life expectancy, that were standing but were getting rotten, and was certainly big heavy trees that could fall and injure someone. So some of the other Eagle projects that were done that involved a trail building behind the airport. That trail is still being used through the woods. Then the new horse farm, we inventoried all the trees and identified the 2,400 or so trees that are on the horse farm, 59 different species. Maybe 60, there's one tree, we couldn't identify the species, but what a great opportunity for an arboretum with 59 different species there, and some of the biggest muscadine vines I've ever seen are in that wooded area, and what a treasure it is to our community that that's being preserved as a natural site. But the fact that the scouts went and inventoried the trees tells us, you know, where and what the trees are, what condition they're in, and allows planners to deal with the treasure that we have in that forest. Probably should stay just like it is before we, and some of them are invasive, you know, you have Chinese tallow and other trees that are not native to us, but for the most part, the trees in there are native. So you have a little brother that's in scouting too, and is he Lafayette?
I think he's about to be star, yeah.
Yeah, and so one of the big, you know, thought processes that go into, you know, coming up with an Eagle project is up to the scout. And he's got to think of something that benefits the community, benefits his church, his school, benefits the environment. And so as soon as the scout gets to be life or near life, he starts thinking about these projects. And projects like putting decals on the storm drains that says dump no waste drains to Bayou. That's some of the Scout Eagle projects. And I guess the Cathedral Oak was one of the projects that was very important because the big oak was dying, was losing all its leaves. And so one of our scouts contacted the university, UL, and spoke to the expert there, I think Dr. Foray, and he came and looked and said, the Cathedral Oak is dying because so many people are walking under it that they have compressed the soil to concrete consistency, and the nutrients and water that should be going to the roots of the tree are not getting there. So that's why all the ferns were planted, and it kind of brought the tree back to life. The next year it produced a great amount of acorns, and so that Eagle project was one of those things that might have saved the Cathedral Oak. Stuart, you can think of some of the others that you participated with?
Well, I did participate in Tim Andrews' Eco Scout project in the horse farm.
That was counting and inventorying the trees.
Right, inventorying the trees.
Yeah, and we thought it was 500 or 600 trees, and we thought we could do it in one weekend, but it was 2,300 and something, almost 2,400 trees.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a lot longer than we thought. Some of the other Eagle projects, and there's been over 80 scouts in Troop 4 or 5 that have made Eagle. Each of them have done an Eagle project, and it's something that we have done all over the state almost. One of them was to work in Lackawanna Reserve. We did a project in that area. I'm trying to, many of them have been tree planting, many of them have been other types of things. Right now it doesn't come to mind. Some of them, it'll come back. But anyway, many of you who are managing a wildlife reserve or managing church properties and our schools, and you have scouts or a scout troop that are aligned with your church and school, when things need to be done, you might think of bringing that to an Eagle Scout. It cannot be for private gain. It has to be for public. And of course, church and schools and the community all come in line with that, So we're very, very pleased that the scouting program has made so many contributions to making this a better world. I would think that with the Scouts committed to the Chaffalay Basin, there are many, many opportunities to make the basin better. We've had trash cleanups where we've taken tons and tons of garbage, and mostly close to I-10. It's amazing what comes off of I-10 that when people cross the basin, and some of it, a wheel comes off a truck or a tire comes apart. That's not intentional litter, but it often ends up in the swamp. And so there's a big move to clean up and do better, and the crawfishermen have done a wonderful job of realizing that when they threw their bait box in the swamp or they threw their bag of crawfish food out in the swamp, that their name was all over it. And visiting people would see that and say, hey, why would you trash such a beautiful area? So, because litter is always an eyesore, and it always comes from someone making a bad decision about, trashing the world we live in. So One of the Eagle projects in the past has been the Festival International Information Booth. And we did some interesting things with that, dealing with litter. During one of the Festival International events, the scout who put this together worked out an experiment with the, I guess the managers of the festival, involving litter and recycling. And the thought was that we would take 4 or 5 blocks of the festival and completely saturate it with recycling bins and trash containers. And it was amazing that those 5 blocks had 99% less litter than those that didn't have the containers. So in later festivals, including all of the last 10 or 15 years, recycling has been a part of the festival. There's recycling containers and trash containers all throughout. And it's amazing that people, given the opportunity, will do the right thing. It's one of the projects that involved the boat landings in St. Martin Parish about this litter idea. And the scout researched what worked best and got that information from St. Mary Parish boat landings, that a big litter box doesn't work well because people from many miles around come and dump their garbage from, and washing machines and refrigerators and big things like that. And it comes in enormous burden. What works best is the 55-gallon drums placed in a piped holding bin that keeps from being turned over. And at 6 of the landings, one of the scouts put up on these trash containers, and it was in St. Martin Parish, and parish government goes once a week and empty them, and when they go to empty them, they also police the parking lot, which has made an enormous difference. You know, those landings now are beautiful and free of litter. Again, like Festival International, when the public has an opportunity to do the right thing, they do. And so having the litter containers there at the landing is real important. Those landings are the Benoit landing, the Catahoula landing, the Butler Rose landing, the Henderson landing. And you'll see those litter containers. I think there's 4 drums. One of them is for recyclables and the other 3 is for litter. So thanks to Parish President Guy Cormier, who agreed to have his folks go out there once a week to empty them, because that's an important part of it too. But it's easier to go empty a litter container than deal with trying to pick up litter with no containers. They tend to really accumulate around boat landings. So some of those are some of the Eagle projects that have been really outstanding, that have made a big difference. And it's that commitment to the basin has allowed the Evangeline Area Council to set up a national high adventure base in the basin. The state has, at Catahoula, given the scouts, I guess, management authority over about 300 acres of state land. One will become a small state park. It's 130 acres. The scouts will use about 20 acres for their Chef Live high adventure base, and the rest of it will be a park in an area right at Catahoula that they call the Forks. There's just beautiful trees. It has hills as much as anywhere in the basin. You have deep ravines and high hills and live oaks on top of the high hills, and in the bottom of the ravines are the cypress. And so you have a great diversity of plant life that occurs in that area, right at Catahoula. And the bike trail goes right by it, and it's about 10 miles from the interstate. So the state has committed that to the scouting program. with $10 million to kick it off and get it started. That's a matching fund, so the scouts have to raise the other money, which I think is coming into place. So, but the High Adventure program is enjoyed by scouts from all over the country, where they canoe about 70 miles from roughly Highway 190 through Henderson and through Lake Foss Point and back over the levee again and back to Mead Point, where the scouts ride airboats and they paddle in a special kayak. So that's been a great part of scouts enjoying the basin. Our troop has spent a lot of time out there camping and canoeing. We take a 50-mile trip from Interstate 10 to Franklin down the main channel, and that's a high adventure trip. Doesn't take that long if the river's running, and the river is a powerful thing, and so it's something scouts learn to deal with, you know, and camp out along the way and so forth. So anyway, we're pleased that we have 4 or 5 young scouts coming up with a need to do Eagle projects, and hopefully we'll move them towards the basin and do things that'll improve the wilderness out there to make it better. I think the park, the state park is an opportunity. The planting of trees out there has been a great opportunity, because a lot of the trees we need to produce food for wildlife is just not there. You can hike for miles in a basin and not find any trees that produce food for squirrels and so forth. So the need to improve the diversity out there is great. Pretty easy to do. It's not a complex thing to do, to go plant trees in a basin. You think it's full of trees, but a lot of instances they're not the right trees. You know? And so we're looking forward to being a partner with the state in making the basin more available to people. And the bike trail is just part of that partnership. The Shafly Basin program has put together the maps. They've been wonderful in their cooperation and help with the levee boards. The Shafly Levee Board initially approved the bike trail, which is a great thing for them to do. And we can see people from all over the country coming to use it. Just for a lot of people, the only thing they know about the basin is driving over Interstate 10, but it's about 1.5 million acre area. And so we're proud to be a part of bringing it to the public in such a way that they can bike and hike and enjoy that wilderness area and observe the wildlife that's there and all the bounty, and learn about the fishing holes and so forth. So, Stuart, do you have any advice to give your fellow scouts about coming up with projects for the Eagle project?
Well, something just kind of in general about scouting. I mean, I'll just stick to it. I definitely am glad that I got through with it, and I'm glad about the project. Definitely pick one that you want to enjoy doing.
Yeah, and it, you know, once you have it behind you, and it's amazing how cooperation comes into place. You know, when a scout is saying, "I'm doing the Eagle project. I need this. I need that," it just seems to come, you know, in that direction. It's hard, I think, for someone who is thinking about the future, has to think about our youth, and scouting, moving youth in the right direction, in a good direction, to put something back into the community. We live in a great state, a great city. We live in a great country, and it's through volunteerism that we make it better. Government can't do it all. And look at this project in the park, you know, it was, had you gone to a landscape architect to do this project, it probably would have been $10,000 to $20,000. And it turns out with a lot of volunteers, a lot of hands, a lot of help, these projects are done for very little money. So, and we hope that that sets the example. All right, thank you, Stuart, for being here. That completes our program. We're done. Fantastic.
Do I have to click record at the end? No?
What's that?
Do I have to click the record button at the end?
Yes. Fantastic. Good job, Stuart.
Awesome.
Huh? Goes till 56.
What?
It goes till 56.
Oh, I thought you said 50.
56, you got another.
All right, we're still on. Okay. Little glitch there, guys, we're still on, so, anyway, the maps of the bike trail are available. If you'll give me a call, or they're available at both Pack and Paddle and at the Backpacker. I'll make sure they got some of them. If you call me, I'll be glad to send you a map of it if you leave on my answering machine at home your address. I'll be glad to mail you one of them. And that number is 234-4042, area code 337. So, again, I want to thank Stuart for being here. Our other scout is out of the country now who did the bike project. Stuart's project was the trees in Gerard Park, all at the request of Festival Acadien, who want to put something back. They use the park free of charge, and they feel that they have an opportunity to make the park better, and Stuart's project was part of that in line with Arbor Day. And so the Champlain Basin Wilderness Bike Trail is in place. There'll be a sign. The city of Henderson is making a sign at the beginning, and there'll be a formal dedication of that. And the press will be invited, and so that will come up probably in a week or two. And it's a nice time of the year to enjoy that biking. It's a challenge to make that whole trail. I would guess we, as a scout trip about a month ago, biked 27 miles of it. It was just about half of it, and we did that about 3.5, 4 hours. So it's you do have a paved road on the first 23 miles of it. There's not a lot of traffic on it, and you could go down to the paved road if you chose, and that takes you to Lake Falls Point State Park. That's a beautiful state park that has cabins, has canoe rentals and all that. And the Champlain Basin program is planning observation decks on Lake Falls Point, Lake Dautrive, and that will be points where you can get out of the sun, so to speak, and rest, and it'll be places where you can put a canoe in the water and not boat, where you can park and leave your car in safety. So we're excited that this has happened. There's lots of talks about bike trails, and we would like to see a bike trail that would go from Lafayette to Henderson. There's one being planned that goes from Lafayette to Lake Martin. It wouldn't be much of a stretch to take it from Lake Martin to Henderson, where that's about 20 miles. You could bike another 55 miles. And then there's a bike trail over there, Calumet, that's about 15 miles along the east side around Bayou Vista, Calumet, Berwick, and Patterson. And that was an Eagle project, started as an Eagle project. It's been enhanced, it's been hard surfaced, and so the trail that the Basin Woodlands Bike Trail would tie in to that Patterson Trail. And you put it all together, if you could get it going from Lafayette to Henderson, and then 55 miles, you get 75 miles, you'd have about a 100-mile bike trail. And I think the Chaffelay Basin Wilderness Trail is the longest bike trail in Louisiana.